Namaste, everyone, and welcome to another session on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Today, we will research chapter 5, verse 22 to 26 out of my book, A Seeker Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I request you to all please buy the book and give me your feedback. Verse 22. In fact, all outcomes born from external contact cause suffering only. They have a beginning as well as an end. So, wise people do not find delight in them. This particular verse is very clear. He is speaking about getting attached to all the various external contacts that we come in contact with in our lifetime. Why is he saying that all external contact cause grief and suffering? Let's start from first principles. When we manifest for two reasons. One is out of an internal stimulus or an internal spandana, a need to get affirmation of existence, a confirmation of existence. So we manifest to tell others that I am alive, I am, that I am needs to be assuaged. And so we manifest. The second reason why we manifest is as a response to stimulus. When someone gives us stimulus, we have two options. One is to not respond, or one is to respond. And we choose mostly the response mechanism because we wish to support our sense of identity, our asmita, our sense of self worth. But all of these transactions have a cyclical effect. All of them result in grief and suffering because there is an attachment that is created, and then we get into this process of trying to buttress our sense of identity. And this results in attachment, which results in a bond which we are unable to give up. So, when we are unable to give up the bond, we begin to start suffering those consequences of the bond: grief, suffering, anger, hatred, desire, and all those things. So, do these attachments come only with animate objects or sensory objects or objects which have senses? Or do they also come with insentient creatures such as your car, your mobile phone, a favorite book, my school, my college, my alumni? Do I have an attachment to those? Because if I do, this means that sentient as well as insentient entities have the ability to attract us, to hold us in captivity in a bond. That means that if we lose our favorite mug, we end up with grief. Oh, it broke. We don't like to share our favorite bed sheets. I mean, right down to that. People will say, my bed sheet, my pillow, I don't like sharing it. The sense of possession is very pervasive. It goes right down to simple things like my pillow, my bed sheet, my towel, my mug, none of which are sentient. They're insentient. So that's what Sri Krishna is trying to say, that all these attachments, all these contacts with external agencies or external objects, they all have a beginning and an end. After all, a mug might fall and break into pieces. No matter how you try to preserve your bed sheet, it will tear and you'll have to throw it away. So, those attachments are all temporary. Even our deepest relationships, such as with our parents, our siblings, our spouse, our children, they all are temporary. So he says all these relationships, they are all external contact and they cause suffering. So wise people do not find delight in them. They do not get satiated by those relationships. They realize that they are temporary. And so they are neutral in those relationships. Verse 23. Anyone who can withstand before liberation from the body, impulses born out of desire and anger, becomes united with the Brahman, he is a happy man. Anyone who can withstand impulses born out of desire and anger. These impulses out of desire and anger come from our need or our sense of self worth or asmita. If we can control those impulses or those expressions of anger and desire, or anything that is born out of that, what will then happen is that we begin to get neutral in the way we respond to anything. Why? Because all those responses come from our need to assuage our sense of identity or purusha. When we are able to control that emergence of the identity from within us, then what happens is we are like bhasmi, the sacred ash that we wear. We are neutral, nothing causes turbulence within us, nor do we cause turbulence in others, because our response is always modulated towards keeping an even keel, keeping a frequency within ourselves as well as others, which does not create turbulence in anyone, them or us. So, the control of the response means control of our sense of identity. Control of the sense of identity, ultimately, what will happen if we have to keep on modulating that sense of identity to a state of null? At that point, we will merge with the Brahman. That is why Sri Krishna says anyone who can withstand before liberation from the body, impulses born out of anger and desire, he becomes united with the Brahman and he is a happy man. And that means he is a happy man means he experiences Ananda. That state of bliss which all our great sages, rishis have spoken about, the Anandam that is experienced when a person merges with the Brahman, or what is called Samadhi or Moksha. Verse 24. Who finds happiness within, even who has internal pleasure from the illumination from Brahman, that yogi attains absolute freedom and merges with the Brahman. The yogi who experiences Anandam, that internal happiness comes from the illumination or Brahma Tejas, Tejas which comes from merger with the Brahman, the cognition of the Brahman, which results in Brahma Tejas. So, obviously, there will be stages in which the merger is complete. There will be in short bursts, then that short burst slowly begins to get longer. Then those little nuggets get connected. The period is longer, and then slowly the person completely experiences Brahman over a period of time. Finally, the person is always seated in the Brahman. So there is absolutely no duality between the person, the Purusha, and the Brahman. So when that happens, Purusha does not exist. The individual ceases to exist. And he completely finds the happiness that one would experience when immersed and absorbed in the Brahman. Verse 25. Rishis or seers achieve absolute freedom due to cleaning of impurities, cutting of duality, rejoicing in the welfare of all beings. This is not necessarily only about rishis. Okay, rishis, they are the role models because they have carved the path, they have made the path for us to follow. Rishis are those who have seen the Brahman, who have experienced the Brahman, who understand the nature of infinity, who have experienced null within themselves. So when they have no filters between themselves and the Brahman, they are completely immersed in the Brahman. And so these are the people who have blazed the path before us, who have shown us how to get there. What Sri Krishna is saying here is that the most critical thing that we need to do today, starting now, is cleansing of impurities. What is cleansing of impurities? Dumping baggage. What is dumping baggage? Letting go the past. It is so difficult. We are a product of the past. Our present is completely defined by our past. Our DNA, which parents we were born to, which family we lived in, what schools we went to, who our teachers were, who our classmates were, what we studied, what was the syllabus, how we passed, our various grades, our various exams, what we studied as a profession, where we went to work, with whom we worked, who our bosses were, who we married, our children. All these are the baggage that we carry. You can't let go those relationships, but you can let go the impact those relationships have on you. So he says, starting today, let go the attachment. The relationship will not change, but your sense of attachment to the individual or to the jiva or the jadam will change. So you will not really be happy if they come, you will not be unhappy if they go, because you have realized that everything is temporary. There is a beginning and an end. Every entity that has got a date of manufacture will have a date of expiry. The minute we recognize that, the first thing that we need to do is to dump baggage, dump the experiences of the past, and first start accepting the present as the most important thing that we have in our lives. That is the first part. Second thing is cutting off duality. That means don't be excessively happy or unhappy with anything that happens. Accept that everything is temporary and there is no need, because the very jiva or jadam, the very entity that you think is important for you, will go. There is no necessity for each of us to get excessively taken in by duality. That is, an outcome of a situation is good or bad. What we need to do is to simply accept the situation as a situation. Then any feeling of good and bad, right and wrong, we need to clean it. That's the first part. So he says you get absolute freedom due to cleaning of impurities. That is, the minute you are in a situation, you experience that good and bad, right and wrong. He says that the minute you remove duality and you then remove the baggage that comes with the situation, and then, when you rejoice in the welfare of all beings, it is not just human beings. This includes animals, this includes the earth, anything that is affected by the Panchabhutas, that is covered by earth, water, fire, air, and space. When you're rejoicing in the welfare of these Panchabhutas, anything that has these Panchabhutas, you are also rejoicing in the neutrality of the emittance of their natural state. That, for example, earth manifests as smell, water manifests as taste, fire manifests as speech, air manifests as touch, and space manifests as sound. So, all the Panchabhutas have a clear point of impact to our system. You have to relish in the welfare of everything. That means you have to look after your environment. You have to be caring to everything that you have. Suppose you have a plate, you have to keep your plate clean and you have to keep your plate in a good condition. Just not throw it away. You cannot throw your clothes away. You have to fold them carefully. That means you're rejoicing in the welfare of everything that you come across, that you touch, that you experience. But you're also not touched by the attachment they have towards you or you have towards them. So the mug, the bed sheet, the towel, all of these, you look after them in the way they should be looked after, but you do not get attached to them. Verse 26. Detached from desire and anger, ascetics control their consciousness in all situations and are evolved souls who exist in absolute freedom. Here, obviously, absolute freedom is merger with Brahman. And so, those that are free from desire and anger, what happens at that time? Slowly, your consciousness from getting attached to all the various touch points externally starts looking inward. So, here, what are the manifestations of these touch points? We start with the Annamaya Kosha, the body, the physical body. So, when you begin to dump baggage, when you begin to dump all the impurities, what happens? Your muscles begin to relax. So that is the manifestation of cleaning of impurities of the Annamaya Kosha. Complete relaxed body. That means your PHA axis is not triggered. Your amygdala, your fight and flight response is stable and it does not respond in a state of agitation. So that is the first part. Now let's go to Pranamaya Kosha. What does he mean here? How does that manifest in Pranamaya Kosha? The breath which comes in is laminar. That means the breath is not fluttering, it is not agitated, it is not broken. So when the breath that you take is peaceful, then automatically it does not trigger your amygdala. When it does not trigger your amygdala, what happens? You are at peace because the HPA axis is not triggered. That means you are in a state of homeostasis. So, what has happened now? The various entities that you come in contact with, they no longer trigger you in a way that is giving you stress in your muscles, internal muscles, as well as your breath. Then we come to manomaya kosha. So slowly all of these have no ability to create agitation in you. So the next thing that you do is the manomaya kosha. Mano is the cognitive aspect. All our senses merge at one point. You can call it the prefrontal frontal cortex. It does not matter. The memory is here, but then behind that there is a lot that triggers the memory also. So when you begin to control the input of data that comes into your system, what we then experience is the slowing down of the movement of the chitta or the consciousness. Because every time you're cutting out the ability of another entity to destabilize you, the chitta does not have any work to do. The chitta is beginning to settle down, like it is somewhat like you have a bowl of water, you stir it, you let it rest for some time, that bowl of water is going to slowly settle down. The physical settlement happens, then the various impurities settle and go to the bottom, and then you begin to clean it out, and then slowly the bowl becomes transparent and you're able to see the other side. And that is precisely what happens internally to us also. Then after we have Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, we have Vijnanamaya Kosha. This is the impact of logic. It is the impact of the various other items that we touch. And it is our own internal processes which we then begin to stop. So those internal processes is our dharma, our natural state. That conditioning we need to overcome. That conditioning we need to nullify. Because only then can we dump all the baggage, we can clean ourselves, all the baggage can be removed. Cleaning of the internal swadharma is slowly then relating to removing the attachment of the self from our continued existence. So we continue to exist, but we are not impacted by the various things that impact that existence. So this is a very elaborate method which Sri Krishna explains to Arjuna, but it is a very simple method and all of us can benefit from it, because then what happens is we reach a stage where we are neutral. We do not get impacted by our circumstances. And that is what he is talking about here. Detached from desire and anger, ascetics control their consciousness at all situations. That means they transcend the Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, and Vijnanamaya Kosha to reach Anandamaya Kosha. They experience Anandam and are evolved souls who exist in absolute freedom. That absolute freedom is the state of Anandamaya Kosha or Samadhi or Moksha. Whatever Sri Krishna is talking about can be summarized as yoga is the movement of the cognition from turbulence to stillness, from cacophony to silence, from the sense of doership or ahankara to inertness or bhasma. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share, and subscribe. For more information, do visit my website www.schoolofyoga.in.